So I'm a nutrition and lifestyle coach, and I predominantly work with people who have gut issues. So anything from, I always say, the gut is a long, windy tract from the mouth to the anus. So anything from acid reflux, bloating, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. And I mainly look at the environment that the person has in their gut to see whether it's working for them or essentially working against them. And I do that mainly by looking at stool and doing functional diagnostic testing to ascertain what's working and what's not. The best group of foods that the gut likes are a group of foods called polyphenols. And polyphenols are like essentially the food for all the bacteria. So polyphenols are in things like, you'll be pleased to know, red wine, dark chocolate, cherries, all your dark berried fruits, lots of nuts and seeds, and it's the polyphenols that if they're in abundance in the diet, then they proliferate and make good bacteria. So a diet that was really devoid of those, that was full of processed foods without any of that sort of life force, energetic life force that we get from the soil, then you would have a very barren environment of good bacteria, and that would constitute having some potential issues within the gut. You know, you've got a whole array of different foods, and they're phytonutrients, phytominerals, antioxidants, and all these foods have basically beneficial, they all benefit the health of the human being, because what they're trying to do is combat the free radicals, the danger, the outside influence from the outside world. I mean, the human being is an organic being. It's quite, it needs protection, and we have lots of natural defenses that help the body defend itself from pathogens, from environmental toxins, and essentially from toxicity. And it's these phytonutrients and these antioxidants that, if they're in abundance in the body, they fight off the damage that these free radicals, this air pollution, smoke, alcohol, carcinogenic foods give. The antioxidants are like the Red Cross, and the free radicals are almost like, so the free radicals are smoke, air pollution, bad food, late nights, alcohol, carcinogenic food. And imagine if they're like one-armed aeroplanes careering around your body, and if it's only got one arm, it's going to crash into everything. And an aeroplane crashing into your body creates damage to the cell. And so what you need is loads of antioxidants, phytonutrients, to come around and replace that one-armed aeroplane and donate another wing to it, so it can fly around the body without causing damage. If the body doesn't have enough antioxidants by having an organic, a seasonal, a well thought out, high rich polyphenol diet, then the chances are that there are more one-armed aeroplanes flying around the body creating damage. And damage to the cell, the outside of the cell, which is covered in this lovely fatty phospholipid layer, when that cell is damaged, then the cell can go rogue. And it's when cells go rogue that they then create more damage within the body. And it's the antioxidants that help protect that process and prevent the inflammatory cascade that the free radicals, the toxicity, is creating in the body. If there aren't any, omega-3s, for example, antioxidants, then the inflammatory cascade proliferates and proliferates, and it's the cells, it's the cell lining that takes the brunt of it and creates the damage. Generally, the brighter the food is, the more colourful the food is, the higher the nutrient content of it's going to be. So berries are a really great source. I always say to my clients that if you just take a handful of berries every day, that's your antioxidant input. You know, that's your multivit. That's your medicinal offering to your body every day. Handful of blueberries, handful of raspberries, blackberries. You know, we're lucky now that our English season of berries is flourishing, and so we can really get the best quality berries that we can at this time of year. Vitamin C is a great antioxidant, for example, really high in grapefruits if you can eat them, oranges, lemons, all those things. I mean, antioxidants mainly come in vegetables and fruits, and the higher the colour, almost the more ugly they look as well, are going to be a much better offering than something's in a plastic packet or looking the same. So I always start with the gut because I think that, well, it's the center of everything, of what goes on above and what goes on down below. And I think that obviously it's quite vogue at the moment, but we tend to just take it for granted. You know, it's the most overused system in the body, our mouth and anus, and we put things in mindlessly and we don't pay enough attention to what our bodies are excreting. And so I always think that one of the best signs of health is exactly what your bowels are doing on a daily basis. So one of the things I find in clinic most of the time is that people are constipated, and our standards of bowel elimination have just decreased because it's become so common to be constipated. And so the way that they come together is having this sort of constipated thought process that we tend to have in more so, I find. People have a problem letting go of things, harboring onto emotions, not letting go of certain situations that have happened in their lives. And so you can sort of have an emotional constipation and a physical constipation, and it's not always that somebody has a bad diet which leads to the constipation. It can be because of their emotional issues going on that manifest in the gut. So we know that the gut is, you know, the gut and the brain are best friends, and so that therefore everything we're thinking about, everything we're doing has a direct relationship to the functionality and efficiency of how the gut works. So sure, if you're going to eat a diet full of processed food, carcinogenic foods, foods that haven't come naturally from the earth, then that should scientifically block up your system. However, if you're a really happy person and you've got all your life in order in lots of different ways, it's not going to mean that you're going to be constipated. Equally, you could have the best diet in the world, eat seasonal organic food, take all the best supplements, and that wouldn't necessarily constitute the fact that you don't have a gut issue if other areas of your life, the bodies, for example, which I talk about in the book, the physical body, the nutritional body, the mental body, and the emotional body, if they're not all singing and dancing together, then you're going to find that you're going to have an issue somewhere. And normally in my practice, and what I've found, is that always manifests in the gut and the way that the bowels move. A very happy body, for the digestive system to work perfectly, it needs to be parasympathetic. And so when people are constipated, that doesn't marry with being parasympathetic, rest and digest. You know, when you're in the middle of an argument, for example, you're sympathetic and your digestive system doesn't go, oh, hold on, I need the bathroom, because it's in a sympathetic state. And so if you're living your life constantly in a sympathetic stress state, your digestive system is going to be taking a back seat because it's not a priority. If you're a stressed person, your priority is to keep going, to stay alive, to putting out the fires, and your digestive system isn't in control. I think probiotics are a great product, but let's say you've got person A and person B, and person A, you know, lives on his farm and eats really good food. there's not a lot that those probiotics are going to offer that person, because you're trying to, going back to the polyphenols and the bacteria, you know, you get all your bacteria from being in different environments, by rolling around in the woods, by stroking your dog, by going for country walks, by eating polyphenol-rich food. And so there's not really much more that that probiotic can give you, however good it is, because you know, science and research, and certainly a lot of work that Tim Spector has done on the gut, you know, after a few days of being in a certain environment, retesting all that gut bacteria, they do disappear if you don't stay in that environment. Whereas a person who, you know, maybe works in an office, has lots of air conditioning, drives to work, eats the same food, doesn't do that many activities, is going to have an environment that they could really need some probiotics. They may feel bloated with food, they may be a bit constipated, and so a probiotic would really help move things around in the gut and offer them great benefit. If you need a boost in health, take it. I think a lot of multivitamins, they're really great for people who need to sort of, you know, improve their immune system, improve their vitality. There are more specific things you can take for certainly people's health, but I think it's a very general starter for somebody wanting to improve their wellness. Yeah, I think, you know, you've got all your B complex vitamins that all help your cells, nerve regeneration. You know, your B vitamins for me are one of the things that are going to help most systems in the body. I mean, they're sort of involved in almost 500 different functions, and they've all got sort of specific roles, but essentially it's all about DNA, protein synthesis, cells, and nerve regeneration. And so a B complex would be a really great vitamin to take for someone wanting to improve their health and bone. B6 is probably one of my favorites, and it's definitely, I use it a lot in reference to the liver. So the B6 is involved in detoxification, methylation, and it helps break things down. So when we talk about detoxification in a 101 form, we're basically trying to take a solid toxin, turn it into a liquid toxin so we can excrete it out of the body. And B6 is one of those vitamins that will help that process. Yeah, B12 is one of those sort of, it's quite common because it's only found in, you know, your meats, your organ meats, your dairy products, and therefore vegans and vegetarians have a problem with it. You know, it's absorbed down in the ileum, but it's, you know, it's essential for protein synthesis. It's essential for, you know, nerves again and cell structure, and so if you're not getting it through your diet, you have to take it through supplementation, because otherwise you will be B12 deficient, then you could be looking at anemia or sort of things like that. Calcium obviously is, you know, calcium bones go together, don't they? You know, we've been fed that ever since we started watching TV, I suppose. And we also know that calcium really comes from all our dairy products. You know, calcium is obviously, it keeps our bones healthy, it keeps our teeth healthy. Again, it's a structural vitamin. But actually, we can get really good high dosages of calcium from our green vegetables as well, and our leafy greens. And so our dairy products can sometimes be quite contaminated or go through processes that aren't as organic that we might like, and so you have to look at the quality of the calcium that you're putting in. I love garlic because it is, with the gut especially, you can't, if your gut is full of garlic, nothing bad can happen. It's a real potent anti-botanical, antifungal, anti-parasite agent. It's an alicillin, so when we take it in its high dosage form, it can kill pathogenic bacteria, fungal infections, even parasites when rotated with other herbs. It's also really good for heart health and helps keep all those blood vessels, arteries nice and clear. So a very sort of old school, ancient medicine would be to chew a garlic clove every day to keep all the pathways and roads, if you like, to your heart nice and healthy and free-flowing. Hawthorne tea is a really good one, and again got quite sort of, it goes back to, the old times in ancient medicine, where hawthorn berries, you sort of seep them out, are really good for heart health. I guess things like, anything that's going to reduce inflammation and keep those blood cells nice and clear. So yes, oregano oil, for example, garlic, yes, hawthorn, omega-3s, all these things are going to be really beneficial for heart health. Actually, green tea is one of the most potent antioxidants that you can get. I mean, tea is generally, with all its, high antioxidant dosages, and obviously the purer the green tea or even matcha, the purer it is, the higher the qualities and benefits it has. I do know that, like anything, if you overdose anything or take the wrong amount, then it can have slightly sort of even heart palpitation effects, because it's a booster, because it's going to increase metabolic rate, it's going to make you more efficient, and it's just doing so much good to you. I know that green coffee bean is often used in like weight loss products, because again, coffee is about speeding up your metabolism. So it's certainly not dietary advice that one might give, but it's true that if you drink coffee, then you keep your metabolism higher. Obviously, there are reasons that you couldn't do that, but the green coffee bean extract, that's why it's always in weight loss metabolic supplements to aid that process. All fats, we need fat in the body to keep the cells stable. So when you take fat away from the body, the cell structure can become unstable. So I always think of looking at like, when people take away all this fat from their diet because they're so scared that they'll get fat by eating fat, there can become a slight instability to those people, sort of a neuroticness. And that's because I think that their cells don't have the structure around them anymore that fat provides. Fat is one of the most essential things in the body, and you can't really take it away. So we've swapped stable fats to unstable fats, and we've got these diets full of vegetable oils and seeds and nuts that create instability in the body, whereas supposed to give us stability. And so coconut oil, is a saturated fat that provides the cells with everything that they need. So saturated fats, when you heat them, they're stable, their structure is stable, and you always want stability in everything. And so when you heat an oil and its structure becomes unstable, chaotic, things go rogue, you can't be in control of it anymore, they create chaos in the body. So the vegetable oils that we see around all the time, sunflower seed oils, all these, they're unstructured, they're unstable oils, and when heated they become even more unstable. And if we think about, all we want is a cell to be protected, because you're just basically a bundle of cells, we're always wanting to think of the health of the cell. So if you've got a stable structure, which is a saturated fat around the cell, then we're going to be in good health. Now, I suppose the point to make is that you can have saturated fats that are very bad for you, of course. But I think we're not really talking about any of those foods. We're talking about natural, organic, seasonable, well-bred farm animals that therefore produce good quality saturated fat. So I really break down carbohydrates into 3 sections: fruit and vegetables, grains and sugars. And most of the Western world get their carbohydrates, or think that carbohydrates are breads and pastas and sugars. So I always try and say to the people I work with that you need to start thinking that your carbohydrates are fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And the other things are the treats and the bad stuff, and you have them once in a while, but they don't constitute any portion of your daily structure of carbohydrate intake. Carbs are the most preferable thing in the body for the body to burn as energy because they're the easiest, followed by fats, followed by protein. So if you're overeating carbohydrates and you're eating fat, your body will store carbohydrates and then it will store the fat. And if you don't burn them off or utilize them, you will just get fatter. I mean, that's kind of a scientific fact. So if we're overeating the starchy carbohydrates and we're not using them, that's why the nation gets fatter, and that's why most of these carbohydrates are cheap, easy to buy, and taste really good, because we just get ourselves into this addictive cycle of eating them. So you want to really remove the starchy carbs to the fruits and vegetables, because you'll be able to eat more of them, utilize them, burn them for all the functions your body needs, and not put on any weight. Chromium is an interesting one. It's sometimes used, well, I use it if people have sugar cravings. So you can supplement chromium to take away people's sugar cravings and make them more satisfied with food. So it sort of blocks those pathways. Maca Root, yeah, it's a Peruvian root. That is, you get it in a powder form, and it's a good hormonal balancer. I'm not sure exactly which hormones it's definitely balancing, but it's definitely used as more of an overall female hormonal balancer, male as well. And it's quite sweet, so you can put it in your breakfast cereals and your smoothies, but I do know that if you overdo it, you can totally ruin what you've just made, so keep it small. Vitamin A is your eye vitamin, so you know it keeps your eyes strong and healthy, and you get it in eggs, for example, and you need to, you know, when we're deficient in vitamin A, you know, a long time ago we used to get the night blindness. Night blindness is a deficiency in vitamin A, so it's very good for our eye health. Vitamin E is a great skin, I think we know it for a skin vitamin, so often you get vitamin E cream and oils, it's good for scarring and things like that. But again, it's a very good antioxidant, so often it's, you know, vitamin C and vitamin E you'll use to regenerate cell health, undo free radical damage. You get it in almonds, you know, all your nuts and things like that, and it's really good for the skin. So that's why those almond milks, cashew nut milks, all those are really high in vitamin E and help improve skin health as well. So omega-3s, you know, we all love to take them, but really the point of them is to reduce and even undo the cascade of inflammation that our body creates. So if you've created inflammation in the body, you need omega-3s to undo it in the phosphobiolipid layer around the cell, and And if you don't have that high dosage of omega-3s in your body, then you'll just keep creating the inflammation. It's good for brain health, it's good for heart health, it's good for everything, reducing inflammation. And as we know, inflammation is at the heart of all disease. So if you start this cascade and you don't put anything in to undo it, it'll just grow like a tumor. But then, of course, there's lots of different ways you can get omegas into your body. And then there's the whole argument about omega-3s and omega-6s and the balance and the ratio of them. All omegas are essential for the body, omega-3, omega-6 and omega-9s. It's the ratio that we have them in. So it's not bad to take omega-6 as a supplement, but omega-6s in your diet are really bad foods. You know, it's processed foods, it's margarine, it's takeaways, it's crisp, it's saturated oils, vegetable oils, sunflower oils. These are really high in omega-6s, which create inflammation. So you've got to be careful with the source of the omegas that you take, because, you know, as our waters are getting more polluted, our fish are becoming more polluted, and therefore the source that our fish eat, you know, the sardines and whatever it is, they're becoming more polluted. So eating salmon isn't the same as eating salmon 50 years ago was. And just because it's salmon doesn't mean it's high quality omega-3 source. I mean, if your omega-3 source, for example, is from really deep water fish, then they're not going to be as polluted as the fish that live higher on the surface. So there's lots of different fishes that we call our dwellers, that scrape along the beds of the sea and pick up lots of toxicity and mercury and things like that. But the deep water fish are the fish that are much more far removed from the toxicity of the oceans, and therefore the quality of the omegas that they're eating will be much higher, which is why you always want to source your omegas from that source of fish as opposed to anything else. Turmeric, again, it's a real vogue spice at the moment. It's sort of everywhere, and you know, it's a real Ayurvedic spice. It's very ancient. I used to I still do cold press juice a lot with turmeric. It stains your hands like nothing else. You can end up looking like a smoker, but it's really beneficial for anti-aging, for skin health. It's a potent antioxidant. There are lots of different ways to take it. So obviously culinary, you can take the root and cold press it and then get a liquid out of it. And even now, more and more companies are doing a supplement form of it. Copper is quite associated with gastrointestinal tract issues. And so when it's deficient in the diet, you can get quite a lot of fatigue and immune weaknesses. It's not often actually put into supplements, and I think that if you're suffering with any gastro issues or fatigue, mental fatigue, weakness in the body, then you definitely want to find a supplement that had copper in it. Biotin is definitely a supplement that people use for hair loss or hair thinning, and it's you know, it just helps with the growth and the absorption. It's a B vitamin, and it's normally in a, you know, you might find it in a hair, skin and nail supplement for men and women. So hair, skin and nails, there's obviously lots of products out there that sort of combine lots of things like, you know, copper, zinc, biotin, all these things. So for skin and nails, for me, some of the times that you get brittle nails or the nails split can really be to do with a protein deficiency. And so you've got to figure out whether that person is, you know, so let's say, for example, like I said to you, you know, you have a protein deficiency because your nails are thinning and they're all brittle. And you could say to me, well, Hannah, I eat like, you know, 150 grams worth of protein every day. So then I'd be looking at the fact that whether you actually absorbed it and you utilized it properly. So again, it goes back to the fact that if we treat supplements just as the allopathic world do, we're just doing the same thing. We're putting in green pharma. So yes, all these supplements should help hair, skin and nails, but again, it's about whether the system is efficient enough in allowing the absorption. Selenium is in Brazil nuts, for example, and selenium is really good for men to protect against prostate cancer and things like that. So, you know, you could just have a couple of Brazil nuts. They're quite hard to eat more than 2 of, aren't they? And they're probably even better if you dip them in dark chocolate. But yeah, Brazil nuts are great for prostate health. HCl is hydrochloric acid, and hydrochloric acid lives in your stomach. Your stomach is, the acid in your stomach is the first line of defense. So I always like to think of it a bit like, you know, when you're forced to have a shower before you go into a public pool. If you have that shower, then you wash off all the bugs and grubs and you're allowed entry to swim with the other people. When food comes into the gastro tract, it comes down the esophagus and it enters into the plunge pool of acid. If your stomach doesn't have any acid, then that food doesn't get washed. And if that food was contaminated with bugs and grubs, it would then have entry into the rest of your body, causing a problem. So acid levels are very important to have because they are the first line of defense against antigens getting into your body. Milk thistle is a great, again, very ancient remedy to keep the function of the liver healthy. So we probably know milk thistle tincture when people are drinking too much alcohol, and it sort of really does damage control. So if you are drinking alcohol, you can take a tincture, you could take a supplement to help filter essentially the toxicity that the alcohol sponges into the liver. Ginseng, again, it's a really great product, and it's really a good adrenal booster. So our adrenal glands give us energy, if you like, and you know, people talk about having adrenal fatigue or, you know, HPA axis syndrome and things like that. And it's the ginseng that will help keep the half-life of your adrenal glands, your cortisol, higher. You can take it as a root, you can take it as a tea, you can take it as a tincture, or you can take it as a supplement. But it's very, very good. And in fact, actually, Korean ginseng has very good, not anecdotal, but probably research as well on a libido. So a lot of, mainly more men than women can take it for those sorts of issues. L-glutamine is a great product. It's a great amino acid, and it's got lots of benefits for your gut. So you could take L-glutamine. So a lot of people take it to help repair the lining of the gut when it's been damaged, or you know, your zonulin markers are low. But you can also, I always like to try and get clients to take L-glutamine in the form of cabbage. So if you cold press cabbage juice, the main ingredient in that is L-glutamine. And actually it's quite a sweet taste, it's not bad at all. But you'd have to be really dedicated to juicing quite a lot of cabbages to help repair the lining of the gut. But that's the main function of L-glutamine. So fenugreek seed or extract is really good for mothers who are trying to produce more breast milk, or certainly struggling with producing enough quantities, and you can take it in any sort of form: tincture, supplement, seed, tea, for example. CoQ10 is a great little supplement that's sort of your heart's best friend. So it just keeps your heart pumping. It's a potent antioxidant. It's great for heart health. And if you are on statins, it's something that you definitely need to be on. So detoxification, again, it's a word that we love bandying around, and we all love to think that we are detoxing. But essentially, you know, we're detoxing generally. You're detoxing now, I'm detoxing now. And if we didn't, we'd just self-combust. So you can see certain people who look like they might be on the verge of self-combustion if their guts are very hard and their faces are very red. You know, they're the sort of canisters that any minute look like they might explode. And that's probably because their detoxification processes, by a process called methylation, isn't working as well as we could. So when we do a 5-day green juice cleanse, that's not detoxification, that's a 5-day green juice cleanse. And you will feel better, and you'll certainly be reducing your toxicity in your body. But for detoxification, you need lots of minerals and vitamins to essentially turn something that is toxic and solid into something that is toxic and liquid to then be excreted from the body. We can't remove solid entities from the body. We can only remove liquid ones. So we have to go through phase 1 to take it into a liquid, and then use phase 2 to get it out of the body. A green juice diet might very well make you feel slightly better. However, if you are that self-combusting canister, it could actually make you feel worse because you're not excreting the toxicity, you're just increasing it. For me, organic is really about counting how many pesticides and chemicals that you decide to want to put into your body. I think that, I would always choose organic over anything not being conventional. It's not as easy as that, but essentially, if you've got 2 oranges and you'd get to choose one with 5 chemicals on and one with none, I would choose the ones with none in because it's going to put less wear and tear on my body. It's not going to essentially kill me or give me disease, but the point is that we just keep accumulating all these tiny little bits of toxicity, and we pass them off in a very British manner of, well, you know, it's only this, it's only that, it's cheaper, it's better, it's nonsense, and it's not nonsense at all. The more chemicals you put in the body, the more stress you put on your liver, you put on your kidneys. You only have to go to places like Nicaragua and look at the sugarcane farmers who are all dying left, right and center of kidney disease in their 40s and 50s. This isn't a coincidence that the people that work on the farms with very little protective clothing and and in the heat as well, are all having serious problems with stage 3 for kidney disease. So the more chemicals, you put more stress on your internal organs, and somewhere along the line, if you don't rebalance the damage, something will come back and bite you. So yeah, fiber is, found in all our fruits, our vegetables, our grains, and we need it. It's almost a bit like a really good chimney sweep through the colon. So if you've got a lot of fiber going into your body with fruits and vegetables and whole grains, then your gastrointestinal tract will get almost washed out. If there's no fiber in your diet, then you're probably going to be slightly more constipated or, have more health issues because you're not allowing the natural ebb and flow of your gastro tract to create peristalsis and work well. I think magnesium is probably one of my favourite minerals because if you go back to biology and your ATP lessons where we all created energy in the Krebs cycle, every ATP cell has to have magnesium attached to it for it to move around the body. If there's no magnesium, then it's sort of like, you know, it doesn't know how to move and it doesn't know how to create energy. So in a city, for a city dweller, because we're all so stressed these days, the mineral that's the most deficient is magnesium. And we know we're deficient in magnesium because we're all tired, stressed, certainly not having any sex, and drinking too much alcohol. And we do these addictive things, and you know, we don't have this energy when we're deficient in magnesium. So we crave chocolate, we crave sweet stuff, and actually all we need to do is put in loads of magnesium to become more energetic, functional human beings. And the great way you can do that is by eating all your green leafy greens, which we know we all love. Zinc is a really essential mineral for your immune system, for example. So we often find it attached together with vitamin C. It's also a very essential process for the start of digestion. It's associated with taste. So sometimes when people have had surgery or the olfactory nerve has been damaged in some way, people's sense of taste and smell can be damaged, can be reduced, and it can also be a deficiency in zinc, so you can increase your levels of zinc and find that you get your sort of those senses back that are all associated around those cranial nerves. Vitamin C is, you know, one of the, you know, it's an antioxidant. We know to take it when we have a cold. But again, if we only take it when we have a cold, it won't cure the cold. We want to prevent getting the cold in the first place. Although having said that, colds are great to get because we then test the immunity and strength and function of our body. But a deficiency in vitamins and minerals, and I think this is why people forget the importance of them, is, you know, back in the day when the sailors had scurvy and beriberi disease, these were very clear deficiencies in vitamin C and in thiamine, which is vitamin B1. People were dying because of these vitamins were so deficient in the diet. So sometimes people poo-poo taking supplements, but if you don't get these vitamins and minerals in your body, and therefore if you don't take them through supplementation, you know, you are going to be deficient, and deficiency comes with health consequences. Thiamine is B1, and it is associated in when you have a deficiency of it, you can see things like neurological issues, muscle atrophy. Vitamin D is mainly essential for our bone health and the absorption of calcium. So, you know, the best way to get it is in through the sunshine, and just to make sure that we're all getting 20 minutes of being outside every day. And if your vitamin D levels are low, you might find that you're a bit fatigued, or, you know, things don't work as well as they did, and then you could go to your doctor and get a supplement form in a spray sublingual form to take some vitamin D, because it's also associated with all our hormones as well. So if vitamin D3 is low, then it can cascade into other issues. I always like to think about sleep. People often ask me, what are the 3 biggest things you can do for your health? And I never really say it's eat broccoli, although broccoli is a very good one. The main one would be to sleep, because when we sleep, we repair. And I find a lot of people these days either don't like going to sleep, they don't get to sleep very quickly, they wake up, they have disturbed sleep, they wake up and go to the bathroom, and they wake up again feeling exhausted. So sleep seems to be one of the easiest, quickest, cheapest, most effective things you can do for your health. And we've suddenly become very bad at it. And that's because we're up too late on computers and phones and social media. It's because we've created all this fear in the world around us, which often is why people don't like going to sleep. We don't have blacked out rooms well enough. We eat way too late at night. We eat dehydrated food, which keeps our digestive systems up. We're not very good at turning the sympathetic working day into the parasympathetic rest and digest day. We're working way too much. We don't know when to stop. We don't know when to be still, because we're scared if we stop and we're just still for a bit, someone will come and jump in front of us. Someone will create something bigger or better or get more. I don't know what our issues are around it, but we've become very fearful at doing nothing and just resting out. Stress is a great cause for everything, really, and you can get physical stress and mental stress and emotional stress. But basically what happens when we get stressed is it affects the way all our hormones work. And when we live in a very stressful environment, it's almost like you've got a bathtub and you've got holes in it. And it's just leaking all the time. Not enough to really notice, to go to the doctor or to make a change, but a very low level trickling out of the bottom of your bathtub on a daily basis. And if you don't do anything to repair that stress, like look in the mirror and say, what's not working in my life, those holes in the bathtub just get bigger and bigger. And before you know it, rather than trying to do any damage control, trying to resolve the issue, you're taking in bigger measures. You create more addictions, you take more pills, you create more disparity with your lifestyle, because you haven't addressed the very simple things that you need to when a stressful lifestyle hits, which is get into bed, drink more water, sweat your body.